Winter Meetings is underway, and one of the story topics that is coming out of there is about Seiya Suzuki. Could he be traded? And is it because he doesn't want to be a designated hitter? Niren and I are going to talk about that on the show. Let's get this thing started. Go Cubs. All right, he's Niren Desai. I'm Mick Gillespie. Thanks for hanging out with us on the Cubs baseball channel. Let's get right into it. Seiya Suzuki, Niren, hearing that maybe he could get traded, but he's got a no-trade clause, so he's got to approve that. Then you see Craig Counsell. He's like, I heard he doesn't want to be the DH, but that's what's best for the team. We have a influx of outfielders, 3 spots and like 8 guys. Is he getting traded?
Well, the media games that are now fully underway. Well, we don't want to trade him, but he doesn't want to be a DH. And he's got a no-trade clause, so we'll listen. It's the drip, drip, drip in the media. We see this a lot. I think he is a DH. I think he could play left field in certain places. But if there's an opportunity to move on from his contract or open up a spot for other players, I think there's a chance that Seiya could get moved, which is surprising because, we have that opening series in Japan.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and you bring up a great point. I've said this before, man. You're seeing them trying to get into the Roki Sasaki sweepstakes, which would be great. Love what Shota Imanaga brought to the table. Japanese baseball is just so hot right now. The players are coming over. They used to come over and you weren't really sure what you were going to get. You could get Ichiro, but you could get guys that aren't going to make it, like 4A guys. They're coming over now and they're really, really good. I mean, look, Ohtani's the best player in the game and he's from Japan, right? So, and the Dodgers win the World Series with 2 of the best Japanese players. And I love their culture. I love the baseball culture that they bring, which is like, respect and team oriented and doing all the little things right. And it makes your team better. Plus you make a lot of money having these guys because there's interest in Japan and in the Far East where baseball is so popular. So from a business angle, if it's me, I'd probably rather get Ian Happ to waive his no-trade clause and trade him instead of Suzuki. But I haven't heard one person bring up trading Ian Happ.
Yeah, I don't think Ian Happ's going to get traded. I think I heard when he signed through another podcast, the Athletic guys, that his wife now is pretty tied to Chicago. He wants to be here. He's really good friends with obviously Arrieta and those guys, and they really convinced him that, hey, if you're happy in Chicago, stay in Chicago. And I think he's really happy here. So yeah, I don't think he's going to go anywhere. And I think he's a steady Eddie, player. I think you need some of that. You get, new players come to the team. They need to understand the routine, the life and playing in Chicago, things like that. I think it's important to have someone like that. I wouldn't have given him that extension. I would have moved him because left field is a spot where you can get a lot of thump for a cheap price. Yeah. Right. You put your worst defender out there and get some slug. But Ian's great. He's a great player. I never would say anything bad about him. But at the same time, roster construction matters. And we know that we need a spot for some of these prospects. And we also need a spot for a thumping bat that's, a little bit weaker on defense.
Yeah. And that's my point. I'm not trying to push Ian Happ out of town, but you can put a lot of guys in left field and not have that much of a drop off. It's not like he carries the Cubs to wins and then he'll go a week without a hit. He's so streaky to me. It's like he bunches all of his hits in the same game. He'll have 3. He'll have like 7 hits in 3 days and then he'll go a week with 2. Like the consistency isn't there, but when he's hitting and he's on it. But I just think, like, for me, I'm looking at this outfield. Seiya Suzuki, I would much rather him be in left than right. I think Owen Casey is the future of right field. I've seen him play defense. He's much better than Suzuki. And I think that he is going to be the next big Cubs prospect unless they trade him. You got Pete Crow Armstrong, Cody Bellinger. Mike Tauchman signed with the White Sox, so he's going to be in town. He's going to be on the losing side of town. And, and we still don't know what we're going to do. And could you possibly trade Seiya Suzuki? Like, I don't feel like that's going to happen. I think it's more of a possibility that you trade Cody Bellinger, and we can kind of get into that. But just staying with Seiya Suzuki, I mean, what would that look like? What do you get back for him? Where would he want to go?
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. I think there's a chance though there could be a cut swap on the West Coast. I think Seattle, definitely with the Ichiro legacy, has definitely been a good spot for Japanese players. The Angels are kind of out of the limelight as well, so there could be an interesting spot where we can swap. There was some scuttlebutt around Logan O'Hoppe. We could use an upgraded catcher. Is there something there? Who knows, right? And there could be even something in San Diego as well. I don't really know about some of these rumors. I think there's a lot of agents and media folks kind of throwing out stuff just to get some chatter going. But I did see the agent of Seiya say he doesn't want to be a DH. He was a great outfielder in Japan. He's definitely regressed or hasn't adjusted to the speed of the program on defense here. So yeah, I mean, I think there's going to be interest. He's got good numbers. If you look at aggregate numbers, he's got good numbers. I think there's a chance that the Cubs would be looking to move off of him just because they say things like, we don't think he can play right field. Left field's blocked. We have excess outfielders, and they prefer to use the DH as a rotational spot. They say these things. So, I mean, you have a guy like Mo Baller. You have a guy like Shaw, who's, more of a hit first person. These are all places where you want to break in new talent. Right. So I just think there's a lot of opportunity here. And you're starting to see a little bit of a drip from the front office saying, look, we've got good players, but we need better players, right? In those 2, 3, 4 spots. Paredes, I think, is a good move. If you look at those long-term numbers, he's good. He did struggle. Maybe that short porch in Tampa, he tried to adjust his swing here in Chicago. Maybe that'll fix itself as the season goes on. But I think there's some opportunities here. You're seeing some other, players mentioned that, who knows if it's real or not. The Cubs are willing to pony up. But you're also seeing other things like, hey, let's beef up that rotation so that these young kids can play, and we don't have that huge margin of error on the offensive side we don't have to put up crooked numbers to win games because we got a deep rotation. I mean, You're starting to see some of these things, right? Let's say they got a Crochet. Let's say they got a rookie. Oh my God, now you have a really deep rotation, and a Shaw, a PCA, a Bush can develop. I just think that you're seeing some of these things come out. But yeah, I mean, I think there's an opportunity here where if Seiya controls the cards, right? He's got a no trade, and the Cubs are acting like they don't want to trade him. So it's all up to other teams approaching the Cubs. And
well, you can't have to act like that, Niren. I mean, if you say you want to trade him and he stays, you know what I mean? They're even saying they don't want to trade Bellinger, and that's absolutely false.
Yeah, I mean, that's what they have to do. They have to make sure they protect their own players. They have to say the right things with just player relations in the media. So that's fine. I think that's the right move. But you're starting to see that they want upgrades in the middle from Belly, from Seiya, or in the aggregate, right? You keep Seiya, but then you add to it. So then in the aggregate, you have a little bit more fear in that lineup, length in that lineup, especially around, some of these young players that at some point they got to break them in. You're not going to trade them all. You're not going to pull an AJ Preller where they traded everybody and kept one guy, Tatis.
Yeah, right.
And Cronenworth, right? So we'll see. I mean, I think you're seeing a little bit of a tea leaves. But at the same time, knowing Jed, knowing the Cubs, I also think that none of it could happen.
Yeah, right. Well, I mean, Seiya and Bellinger are the two Cubs' best hitters to me. They're the most consistent guys, Seiya from the right side and Bellinger from the left side. The problem is, which I don't understand, you knew that you had all of these guys you've been pushing up through the minor league system. Now you pushed them in the AAA, so now the next move for them is to the big leagues. But then you signed these deals with no trade clauses, and then you went out and gave Bellinger a deal. To me, I just don't understand the whole construction, the roster construction and the contracts that go with it, compared to what your organization has and what you want to get to the big league level. But maybe I'm missing something.
Well, I think that's the thing with this front office, right? I don't think they have good roster construction pipeline. They're just very analytics. Oh, we can tweak guys. We can convince guys to be better or create an aura or a organizational game plan strategy to create edges. It's tough. I mean, the league has changed. It is a top-heavy, top talent, thumping, put up crooked numbers league with power pitching and power bullpens, right? I mean, that's where the league is going. It's different than it was in 2022, and you have to adjust. And little things that you can tell how the Cubs work, right? Oh, we can tweak this guy's pitching. We can tweak this guy's approach of the plate. We got a manager that's going to give us 4 or 5 wins. That didn't work either, right? Like, you remember last year? Oh, Craig Counsell can beat you with his players and your players.
I thought that he could. We got the same record.
No, you need talent. You need talent. You need great players with great talent, plus good players, and you need the analytics and the edge that you get from game planning and all the player development tweaks that teams make. You need it all, because the top end of the league with the Braves, the Phillies, the Dodgers, the Padres, it is a top heavy league, and you got to bring it. You can't think you're going to outsmart guys with analytics in a whisper that can throw sweepers or something like that. I don't think those days. I think those days are It's not that they're over. I think that bar is equal across the league on the top level.
When you see the Dodgers going out and spending, right, winning a World Series and still going out and adding, a Cy Young Award winner to the rotation, not being afraid to go way over the, the threshold of, the salary cap or whatever you want to call it. The Yankees going out there and spending what the Mets just spent. I feel like the Cubs could do the same thing, but if I was Tom Ricketts, I'd be hesitant to do that, because the more I look at the Dansby Swanson deal, the more and then I'm looking at Jason Hayward deal. Like, those are two of your big deals, and you failed on both of them. Look, I like Dansby. Look, this isn't a personal shot on him, but he's an 8th batter, and you're paying him to be your 3rd hitter or your 4th hitter or your number 2 guy, and he just isn't that good. And the Braves are pretty smart about the guys that they keep and get rid of. Now, I think they would have loved to have had Freddie Freeman, but that felt like it was a lot of miscommunication with his agent afterwards. But but they go and they get Matt Olson, slide right in that spot. It's not like they had a big, until last year, maybe not huge drop down, but I would be hesitant, man. I'm not enamored by Ian Happ's contract, Seiya Suzuki's contract, and then Dansby Swanson. I feel like people want to say that it's that ownership's cheap. Maybe that's part of it. But I think part of it's that, look, man, you just gave this guy $177 million and he's an 8th batter.
Yeah, I mean, the thing with spending is you're paying for future performance based on past performance. So, it's hard to project. I mean, think about like in 4 years, right? You're talking about 2029. I mean, who knows, right? Like, who knows? These guys age, are in their 30s, they get hurt. They lose the fire. These guys have been playing year round since they're 11 years old. Who knows, right? But at the same time, I don't understand the Cubs strategy in terms of payroll. If you're going to, first of all, if I'm Tom, I've given Jed $100 million more than the Brewers the last 2 years, and he still can't beat him, right? I gave you $8 million for the manager, and you still can't beat him, right? So why should I give you more? And then second, if you're going to spend $230, you might as well spend $260, right? What's the point, right?
Right, I got you. You're exactly right. It's like going out and buying clothes. Like, if you're going to spend, if you're going to spend $100 on a pair of sneakers, just spend $200 and get the exact ones you want, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's not like it's not from.
That I'm one of those guys, but
I mean, to me, it's like if you're going to spend $230 and win 84 or 85, make sure you spend $260 and you're projected to win 94, right? And what's that extra $30 million? It's probably 3 relievers that secure the 7th, 8th, and 9th, right? And that's what you need. You need to create that. Hey, we had a good start. We're up 5-2. Let's make sure we win this one, right?
Yeah, right.
And that's, to me, that's where that little bit of extra spending goes, right? So you need those guys. I mean, you're right. Like, Dansby doesn't look like a great deal, but at that time we were barren, right? We had nothing. Right. So sometimes you make those deals when you had nothing. It
felt like, though, that they were criticized for not spending any money. And then all of a sudden they went out and spent money, but the spending was not the spending that I thought that they would do. Right. Like, oh, well, we're going to spend to give a left fielder a long contract. Like, you notice, you left field and second base are positions that you just kind of throw people into. Like, you don't, unless you got Ryan Sandberg.
We get the best, the top 2 in that.
Right. Or Alfonso Soriano. I mean, it's like, hey, you know what? That's for a guy that bats 240 and is like kind of an on base guy, no. And you give him a no trade clause. So now you're stuck there. And then, I don't know. I'm curious, they saying they're connecting Nico Hoerner to maybe the Mariners, maybe Cody Bellinger to the Mariners. I could see the Mariners pulling the trigger on a big trade. I love the idea of the Cubs getting a real catcher because I feel like that is such a gaping hole for this team. And I'm just not sold on Miguel Amaya being your everyday guy. Going and getting the backup from the Angels to me is it's a backup. I mean, I want a star behind the plate because it's one position that you actually have some flexibility in. And I value catching. I think it is a underrated commodity, but it's also the toughest commodity to find right now in the game. Really good catchers are far and few between. So if you could pull that off, maybe, but we'll see. I feel like the Nico deal is one that's an easy, we'll kind of just get your thoughts and wrap it up. But I feel like the Nico trade would be the easiest one just because you got Matt Shaw with more power, not as good defensively. And then James Triantos, both of those guys, they're okay defensively, but they can both hit.
It's really disappointing. I like Nico's the kind of player that you would want to keep. And he's like batting, 7th, 8th, 9th, and he's got a Gold Glove. And he seems like a winning ball player on a good team, right? But the way the Cubs are constructed, they can't make it work. With Swanson and a deep first center fielder and a deep first usually catcher in terms of their strategy. That's just disappointing, right? And I think they'd be selling low on him. I think coming off an injury, they'll and what he's at. I think they'd be selling low. So it'd be disappointing for them to sell. I think they're actually going to keep him. Unless again, it's a swap, where they're getting something back, where the other team is, is trying to move somebody else, like a need for need kind of thing, or get rid of for both sides.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a little disappointing because I think Nico's a good winning ball player. I just don't think the roster is constructed for it. And I think he's going to come in, I think he's going to go join a team with a bunch of thumpers, the Dodgers or the Yankees or something like that. And he's like, oh, this guy's great. He's such a great player. It's because he's, no one expects him to do anything other than, hit singles with the bases loaded.
Set the table, man. He's the table setter. And
there's the bases.
Isn't that a good spot to be these days?
I mean, just think about it. You got to go through a couple boppers. You max effort reliever, and then you got Nico coming up, and he's like, all right, we pitched around those guys to get to Nico, and Nico, punches a freaking, a line drive to right field and 2 runs score. I mean, think that's the guy he is, and I think and then he'll turn on one when you're not expecting it, and I just think he's a good player. I just think that the Cubs aren't constructed for him with Shaw and Triantos and these other guys that they have coming up, and the other needs they have, right? I just think that. It's disappointing, but I think you're right. I think he's going to get moved, but I think they're going to keep him until he's healthy, so then they can get a little bit more value for him.
Yeah. Niren, always fun talking, brother. Thank you.
Thanks for having me. Look forward to the next chat.
Let's do it. Let's do it again maybe next week. Niren Desai, Mick Gillespie. Thanks, guys. Get in the comments section. I know you guys love it when Niren comes on because it's like he's so great in the comments section, and you guys love to get into that, and I do too. Like, subscribe, thumbs up. And we'll keep on covering this winter meetings. Who knows? Maybe the shoe will actually drop instead of drip. Go Cubs.
We'll have an emergency podcast soon.
We'll jump right on.